Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Argos Memories. Yes, it's that time again to look through another nostalgic Argos catalogue. This has become a sort of Christmas tradition for me. I don't know, I just find it a relaxing thing to do. Because that's what it was like around Christmas time, you get given this catalogue and that was how you had to pick all your presents, and get excited for Christmas. And this time we're going to be looking at a catalogue from the year 2000 because it's the 25th anniversary of the year 2000. That's my justification anyway. Which for some people will probably be like, oh, it doesn't seem like that long ago. But if you think about it, if this was the year 2000, I'd be talking about a catalogue from 1975. That makes it freaky, doesn't it? Yes, it does. But anyway, let's get going and dig deep into the Argos catalogue from the year 2000. Let's check it out. Okay, so here we go with the catalogue from 2000. So we have the cover of Glory here with sort of a multicolored theme this time around. Brighter shopping, low prices guaranteed, with a bit of guff from the year 2000, like one of those horrible plastic yellow phones. Definitely remember those. And a Walkman, a CD Walkman. I think I talked about that before. I used to have one of those for putting CDs in. Unbelievable. You wouldn't be carrying your music around now like that. Wouldn't even fit in your pockets. You'd like break your pockets putting one of those on. One of those digital watches. Are those waterproof watches? That sort of kind of look like rope, the straps did. They were like ropes. And toys, of course, sort of generic toy blogs. Look at those phones, the transparent phones. It's been ages since I've seen one of those. Sort of a novelty. They're kind of a novelty for gadgets back then. Transparent, and you could see all the bits inside. Like there were some PlayStation controllers like that. You'd always be jealous of the person who had the transparent PlayStation controller. Look at that robot dog, Cyber Dog. Was that one of Argos's own toys? Imagine having your own robot dog. New internet TV. That's glorious, isn't it? Look at that. Surf the web. 14-inch Bush Internet TV provides access to the internet. No PC required. That's a fancy bit of kit, isn't it, for the year 2000? I don't think I've ever heard of that. Internet set-top box can be connected to any TV and give instant access to the net. I wonder what that was like. Did it come with a keyboard? That's bizarre. An internet TV in 25 years ago. I wonder what that was like. Was it like, using Sky or something, with all the stuff on it? I don't know. That's fascinating. I wonder if anyone has the internet TV and does it still work? That is the question. Novelty gifts, Cartman. Yes, he's a novelty, isn't he? Oh yes, of course, the perfect addition to your jewellery collection. South Park jewellery, yes. And Mr. Men. There's a contrast with each other, isn't there? South Park right next to Mr. Men. Symbols for life. Luck, wealth, happiness, long life, and love. Why not have them all, and then you can have it all, baby? The ultimate earring organizer holds up to 60 pairs of earrings. Now that is something that your nan would love. That's the type of novelty gift you give your nan, because she would have about 6,000 earrings. PC Unite, the watch that lets you wear the latest data on your wrist. What, so is this some sort of internet watch? What, you beam it at a computer screen and it sends the information to the watch? There's some pretty fancy technology for 25 years ago, isn't it? The ultimate portable computer. Wow, so a computer watch, apparently. That is like some James Bond gadget. I would have loved one of those. Imagine firing a laser at the TV screen or the computer. I'd be like, yeah, that is a great toy. I would have loved that as a kid. And all these fancy, like, digital watches, I always had kind of boring watches, though, just the ones with the normal hands. Like, when I wore a watch back when I was a kid, I always used to wear it, like, on the other side of my wrist, like Bruce Willis in Die Hard. I'd, like, wear it on the other side of my wrist to try and be alternative, I suppose. The original disc scratching watch, what is that? Like a record? Like playing a record or something on your watch? James Bond. There's the Bond watch, which looks horribly cheap. You'd think it would be really posh and fancy to be 007. Pikachu clock, that looks like... And Taz too, look at that. Taz, that's a cool clock. Would have liked that. And Pikachu as well. Lots of kids probably had that one, didn't they? A nice little Pikachu sitting on top of the clock. Powerpuff Girls watch. I would have liked that, being a fan of the Powerpuff Girls at the time. South Park as well. What is that? Is that... Oh, there's the rats from Chicken Run. And that's the dog, I guess. After Ginger from Chicken Run. That's bizarre. That is a weird clock. That's a weird idea for a clock. Porcelain dolls. Now these are the scariest thing ever invented. I think my nan had a couple of these and I just did not want to go near them. I thought they were like Chucky dolls, they come to life and kill you. I don't know, they just look creepy to me. But a Pokemon Guff, Pikachu backpack, that's ace. Yeah, I would have liked one of those. South Park, but it's more South Park. Lots of watches and stuff. South Park had a lot of merch around this time. It's kind of bizarre, actually. It was, even in kids' magazines and stuff, you'd see South Park, which is kind of weird. It's like they knew how popular it was with younger people, even though it's, not for kids. But they definitely didn't mind pushing the merch to us, that's for sure. Sea watches, which I think these were the kind of talking watches that had little animations and things like that, and games on them. Definitely remember them being a thing around that time. More South Park stuff. The talking car. I had a lot of this stuff. I had the talking, that sofa thing, and that doll of Cartman. Yeah, he talked to you when you squeezed him. Simpsons, of course, classic. Like this chair. I remember kids having that chair. Chicken Run, of course. I love Chicken Run. This is my favourite Aardman movie, actually. Controversial choice, maybe, but I love this movie. But they had a fair bit of merch, like little sort of soft toys and things like that. And a playset, I guess, of when they're on the roof talking. And lots of action figures and stuff. Did they have the pie machine? Where's the pie machine? That's the thing I always wanted, was the a playset of that pie machine with all the blades and stuff. That was like the best bit of the movie when I was a kid. Alien, look at that generic alien mask, yeah. That was a thing at the time. They had like dolls of that alien head as well. I remember that. Remember the disc gun, like the gun that shoots like foam discs. Like that was that was a lot of fun back then. Electric toothbrushes haven't changed much, have they? They're just like this exact same thing. I guess the chargers aren't that chunky anymore, but they've just stayed the same. Electric toothbrushes. Look at that. That is a laser blaster. That is not a hairdryer. Here's all the cutlery. I kind of love this stuff because even now, when you look in like someone's cupboard, you'll still see like some old plates like this. They've just never changed. Looney Tunes mugs, yes, look at those novelty Looney Tunes mugs. I think my nan had a few of those. Green kitchen stuff. This has gone out of fashion, I feel like. All the green kind of colour motif. You don't really see lots of green stuff anymore, but, back then, I don't know, Nan thought it was trendy. Cindy Crawford, she won't wait with this kettle, she doesn't have to. Yeah, she looks sort of, not that impressed, actually. Toasters. Looking at this just makes me fancy having a croissant. Michael Roux, one of the world's finest chefs, insists on using a brown hand blender because of its practical design, power, and versatility. And I'm only saying that because they paid me a lot of money. The trouser press, remember that? Do they still have those in hotels? They'd always have those on the wall, like the Corby trouser press. I've never had cause to use one. Ironing boards. It makes you wonder, why does an ironing board need like an elaborate pattern? Shouldn't it? It could just be blank. I mean, it doesn't make any difference to what you're doing, does it? Do not iron. That's good for an ironing board. Don't put the iron on it. Dyson. Remember when Dyson started coming in? All these Dyson Hoovers. These were like the big expensive ones back then. You'd always see them in like Macro at a ridiculous price. That yellow one, that's like the one I remember. The one that was always on TV. We did actually get one, actually, after, I used to like nag, can we get a Dyson, because it looked really, posh and fancy. So we did end up getting that yellow one. Washing machines, yes, like with a kid who's straight out of a Purcell advert. I mean, look at that. You'd have to be trying to make the kitchen that filthy. Come on. Stove's very old-looking stove. That's like the stove Nan would have, definitely. She'd always have the old-fashioned one. Cafe tables, remember those? Always see those in the old cafes back then, like Wimpy and stuff. Remember those wicker pieces of furniture, like in the conservatory? Like, that was conservatory furniture back then. Everything was wicker. We had that chair, I think. I used to sit in that watching Cartoon Network, I think, back in the day. I think we painted it white, like my mum painted it white and had it in the living room. So I used to sit in it, actually. And that's hardcore late 90s, early 2000s patio furniture, conservatory furniture. That's a Hollywood sofa. What makes that a Hollywood sofa? Shouldn't it have stars on it or something? Hello, is that Argos? I'd like to be ripped off today. Look at what do you call that glass? That molded glass. You'd see that. That's like an 80s thing, I think. Pretty old, yeah. Remember that? I'd like to see that make a comeback. Oh yes, a TV in the year 2000. There's actually a widescreen TV, if you could believe it. I think those only just started coming in around that time, like the year 2000. But we didn't have one until, much later. We had a square TV, big fat square TV in the lounge. Yeah, more widescreen TVs with a lot of recordable tapes, because you needed them when you were taping stuff off the telly back then. And they'd always say, like, keep off on them. Don't tape over it again. There's a setup for the 2000s. Like that hi-fi set with a DVD player and a video machine. Yeah, you'd be chilling in the year 2000 with that. Yeah, that's the glorious setup for 25 years ago. That's what I'd do when I was a kid. I'd just sit on the floor, like, rolling around, while the telly was on. I wouldn't even use the sofa. Fidgety. See, that's what we had. We had like one of those big fat square TVs, you know, even though the units, that's a bit old-fashioned actually, yeah. You know, go to your great aunt's house and that's what she'd have. There is sort of a nan's living room with slightly oppressive space though, like you're trapped in the corner, you know, right there with these big units in the foreground. So it makes it look so cramped. The TV that holds all your CDs, because you've got to have all those Now albums, right? That's what my mum would have, just stacks of those Now albums in those racks. There's a bland living room. Yeah, that's pretty bland, isn't it? With a wood effect. Yeah, everything was wood then. Everything was wood. We took all the carpets off in our house. All the carpets were gone, and it was all wood effect. And then carpets came back into fashion, I guess. Some more units, even though again stuffing the actual people in the corner, which again makes it look cramped. Darling, I love living in a 3-inch room. Look at this guy living in his trendy bedroom. Look at his computer. Look at the size of that monitor. The Ibiza beach effect furniture. So I guess this is to recreate that feeling of being on a beach in Ibiza. Yeah, even though it looks sort of like a kid's bedroom, doesn't it? With the sort of tweenies, dolls, and Tigger. And is that one of those kids' laptops, like VTech? I had one of those. Yes, the kids' bedroom, although not much in it, really. Got the lava lamp. I mean, everyone had a lava lamp. But no, where's the toys and stuff? Come on, kid. Yeah, we are, like the den underneath. I always like that. I had like a little den. I had a little bed that was a bit lower than that, though, but there was a bit underneath that you could crawl under. And it was like full of, you know, Star Wars stuff. You know, it's like the Jedi Temple, you know, under the bed. What a dork. Metal bunks, look at that. 2 beds in one there. 2 beds, one there, and enough room to go on the computer in the year 2000. Simpsons bedding, I think. Thunderbird's bag, here we are, getting into some toys now. Bit of Toy Story there. Even though he seems to be dressed like Woody. There we are, bit of a older kid's bedroom with a poster of the Phantom Menace, because that was the big Star Wars movie at the time. Spider-Man, of course. There was no Spider-Man movie then in 2000. Yep, just the cartoon. Is it a tent? Is it a den? Is it a bed? Even Argos doesn't know. Oh, guest beds. Remember these fold-out beds? When you had to stay over Nan's house, you had to sleep on one of these in the bedroom. And it was like the most uncomfortable night's sleep you'll ever have in your life. You'd be up at like 6:30 in the morning with an aching back, praying for Nan to make you some Weetabix. Kids' chairs, these look a bit more comfy than those inflatable ones, don't they? They might be cushioned, I think, or maybe they're like bean bag chairs, I don't know, Pokemon, yeah, tweenies. I remember those, like that thing, that was on like the rug when I was a kid, like the road thing, you could put your little cars on it, you know, and drive them around, you know, even though it was just a flat picture, you know. It was enjoyable 25 years ago, what can I say? Cuddle cushions, look at that, big Tigger, Eeyore, Winnie the Pooh, giant things that would take up space in your bedroom. I had a giant Rugrats one, I think. It was Tommy from Rugrats, and he was huge. Toy Story 2, I had Toy Story 2 bedding, not that one though. It was like Buzz Lightyear centric, my one. I think that picture might have been on it though, just like smaller. Bart Simpson, South Park again, there you are, South Park bedding for the kids. Couldn't escape it. Novelty lighting, I had one of those in the bedroom, and that was the only lamp I had in the house, so when you had to try reading a book at night, it was like, all you had was that, and it was always changing colours. I was like, oh, it's like reading a book while being under the influence, you know, it's hallucinating half the time. Instant pictures with your Polaroid camera. Yeah, Mum had a Polaroid, and she'd take so many pictures, I had a flicker book of my whole life. The iZone, look how cool this is. Look at this stuff. What is this? Some sort of tiny camera that fits in your hand? I don't know. Look at this crazy stuff. It's like you can jump through, you can jump high into the air when you buy that camera. A VHS-C camcorder. Remember those? Like, they were like these tiny videotapes. You had to have like the adapter to put it into like a big videotape down there, so you could actually play it. Yeah, I wonder how many of those people have floating around that they just can't use anymore. Binoculars. Yeah, we always had a pair of binoculars lying around. I always like looking through it the wrong way for some reason. I don't know why. I was like, ooh, I like it when everything looks really far away, you know, instead of really close. 14-inch televisions. Now, these are the true TVs, in my opinion. You know, this is what it's all about. Just big, chunky, square TVs that we need more of in our lives. Not those, though. Remember that thing? You could take it to the park and watch the TV and never pick up any signal whatsoever. It is. Look at that. That's a telly. That, in my opinion, that is a telly. Look at that. Bush Internet TV. Oh, so here's those Internet TVs again. Get online from only £99. Internet content produced by Virgin. So they were giving you the internet back then on these tellies. I think this is a wacky invention. If anyone can find one of these, let me know. I'd love to see like how it works. Download and print from the internet. So you can hook it up to a printer and everything, and a cordless keyboard. Ahead of its time. It was ahead of its time. home cinema solution. So a very early DVD player it must have been, because DVD players were not easy to get in the year 2000. You had to wait a couple of years before they were affordable. Widescreen TV only $329. See, some TVs have actually gone cheaper. You know, you can get a full HD set for less than that probably now. But it was all widescreen. That was the big thing, because TVs were only square, and then once they went widescreen, it was like, wow, so much better quality. Even though like SD content looked pretty terrible on a widescreen TV. When stuff would be stretched out like widescreen VHS tapes, they never looked right, you know, on like standard definition. They just looked bad. Here you are, DVD players, 150 quid, the lowest priced DVD player ever. So that was the best you could do back then, probably, for a DVD player. Even though they were all basically the same, so, you know, you might as well just buy the cheap one, really. Hey, it's the Smart Engine. That's the video player I use now, more or less. I think it was something similar to that, the Smart Engine by Sony. Because they rewind faster, that's why it's a Smart Engine, you see. Rewinds very quickly, so that solves that problem, I guess, of having to wait 5 minutes for the tape to rewind. Bit of Sky Digital, so you could get your Sky subscription through Argos, yeah, with the dish and everything. Or On Digital, that was like ITV's thing, which we never had On Digital. I think NTL also replaced all that, but we never had that. You jog, you skip, this doesn't. Yeah, that was another thing about Walkmans, is that if you obviously go for a run with a CD in your pocket or clipped to your belt or whatever, it would always be skipping. But, you know, so I doubt that's true. You know, there it doesn't skip, I bet it skipped. Mini disc systems. Who remembers the mini disc? No one, that's who. That was, you know, dead and gone in a couple of years. Even the plugs were transparent. The extension, you know, things, the extension plugs. Perfect for kids' bedrooms. They were all in on transparency back then. BT, look at that. My nan had that phone, that BT phone. That's a proper phone as well. Gotta have a big phone, you know, to hold. Yeah, great. Those were great phones. A prepaid phone for home. That is bizarre. Pay-as-you-go landline? That is weird. Might as well have a phone booth in the living room. Email phones. Oh yes, email phones. You can send email on your phone. Back then, it's not that outdated, is it, guys? Pagers? Come on, who had a pager in the year 2000? Those were out by the 90s. Come on, pagers. We never had a pager. Never, ever. Not in my lifetime did I ever see a pager. They felt like a relic of, you know, the 80s and early 90s. We'd get beeped by a number and you'd have to call it back on a real phone. What a bizarre idea. What a crazy idea that was. Vodafone. Look at that Vodafone. That's more like a walkie-talkie. The mobile phones are not quite advanced yet, you know, but they still existed. They always had those big antennas. Hey, look, there's one that doesn't have an antenna. That one was slightly ahead of its time. That's what they started to look like in the mid-2000s. Internet-ready DVD PCs. So, yeah, computers that could play DVDs, because not all of them could. Our computer could only play CD-ROMs, actually, our first computer. Look at the family gathered around the PC, all enjoying the computer. That would never happen now. Everyone would just be on their phone, separate from each other, just ignoring everyone else. Your guide to faxes. Yes, another relic, faxes. No one has a fax machine anymore. Or do they? I don't know. Fax machines with telephone answering machines. It just looks like one thing slapped on top of the next. Oh, it's a fax machine. Oh, put a phone on top. Oh, it's just everything all at once. Dictation machines. I actually think these things still exist, you know, for people who are writing, like, legal stuff. You know, things like that. These might still exist, actually. I don't know if they run on tapes anymore, but yeah, bizarre. Office chairs. Look at that. The cheapest office chair you could get. Everyone just used to spin on them. Did you used to do that? Just spin, spin, go, 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 go. I can't see. Trust Argos to offer such good value. Sometimes. Look at that. That's a very good setup. Look at that. I would have liked that as a kid. Imagine having two computers all to yourself. Look at that. That sort of Art Deco desk. Slanted a bit. That's kind of cool. Kind of like that. What do you mean the ladder's breaking? Big basketball hoop. We had one like that. Yeah. Hours of fun just dunking the ball into the net. Improve strength and body tone without exercising. So they say. I mean, look at that. You look a sight in one of those, don't you? Must promote Argos. Dream Street, remember that? I think that might have been in another catalogue, but that was a CITV show about sort of to promote road safety, I think. But, you know, I had it on a video. I don't think I ever saw it on telly, but there was an episode on a videotape. And I was like, oh, wow, I'd really like that playset. You know, there was an advert on telly for it as well. So I always, like, wanted that. Even though I only saw one episode, I think, of Dream Street. There's Barney. Beware, beware, Barney. Toy Story 2, Mr. Potato Head. I had a Mr. Potato Head. Didn't have Mrs. though. I wanted them both, you know, to put them together, but I only ever had Mr. and all the pieces would go missing. He was on telly all the time, him, early in the morning on Milkshake. Used to like him, Bear in the Big Blue House. Here we are, tweenies. They were everywhere around this time. You go Bella, Jake, Milo, and Fizz. That's the thing I would have wanted. The house, like the playset. I don't know. I always liked playsets. I don't know. I liked recreations of the things from the TV shows. You know, like the buildings and the houses and stuff. I always wanted that. So that I would have loved that with the toys. VTech. Oh, like a toy mobile phone. The first ever toy mobile phone, probably. So it never did anything. It was just a piece of plastic. Darth Maul. Is that a Darth Maul costume? How bizarre. Only available at Argos and Gus. What Gus? That Gus? Here we are, like fake kitchen appliances, like a fake washing machine, a fake ironing board, and a fake rotary line. I mean, your mum would just say that, like, there's some real ironing upstairs, go do that, you know? Baby Born. I hated these, like, Baby Born, Baby Annabelle. The adverts were Shoo Shoo. That's another one, Zap Creation. The ads were just on TV all the time, and it was like the same, you know, jingle every time. I was like, oh, please stop, make it stop. Cindy, yeah, Cindy was still clinging to life for that time. She was like a Barbie knockoff. Steps, was that some sort of thing with the band Steps? Cindy Cafe, yeah, she's like, when you couldn't afford Barbie, you had Cindy. Animal Hospital version. So she was partnering up with like a couple of different people. Polly Pocket, she was around. She was alright, Polly Pocket. Didn't mind her so much. You know, but she was on TV all the time as well, and the jingle never stopped. Furbies, remember these? I always thought these were related to sort of Gremlins, you know, like from the movie. It was, look at that, interactive gizmo. Yeah. Were they inspired by Gremlins? I'm not sure, they might have been. But yeah, there's Gizmo, so yeah, that's what they reminded me of. I never had one though, but they were a big toy around that time. And that thing is terrifying. Look at that. That's going to haunt my nightmares. My Monster Buddy. Isn't that an 80s toy? Wasn't there a toy from the 80s with the chains and things? Chains can't hold me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was an 80s toy, so that I'm surprised that that was still being sold in the year 2000. 102 Dalmatians. Yes, the sequel. Pre-film release. So that was out before the movie when they started doing that. Powerpuff Girls. Here we go, the Powerpuff Girls. Yes, I was obsessed with this, the Powerpuff Girls, because it was a good show. It appealed to boys and girls. So, you know, unlike things like Barbie, I thought this was appealing because they kicked butt, you know. They were action girls and they beat up monsters and stuff. So how can you not love them? Yeah, but lots of toys back then. I had a couple of Powerpuff Girls things, like a cutlery set. These were the talking dolls, I think. You know, you could get a little playset with some Chemical X. There was a lot of Powerpuff Girls stuff. Cow and Chicken, look at that, Cow and Chicken. I had like a big plastic toy of the cow that like opened up into a playset inside, and Scooby-Doo, of course, with his 80s logo, I think there. S Club 7, ask your mum what that is. Powerpuff Girls outfit, that is a sight, isn't it? My goodness. Changing Rooms Dollhouse, I have an advert for that on a videotape, yeah. I wouldn't have minded that, actually, because again, I liked playset things, so I would have, you know, put Spider-Man in there, probably. Check out the bling. Oh, look, there's an Art Attack set there. Remember that? With like all the stuff inside. I had those. And everything would get lost over the years. You know, the paint would dry up and the pens would get lost. Crayola, it starts here. Remember all those crayons in school? My favourite was the cola one. There was one that was cola colour. It was like the colour of Coca-Cola for some reason. Football tables, those were alright. I used to like seeing those in the arcades and stuff. You know, whacking the ball about. Sometimes the ball wouldn't be there, though, so you just had to spin the thing if the ball was missing. It was pointless. Little dens and stuff, tunnels. I think we had something like that with the little tunnel and things. Those were always fun. Used to like those. Although, like the ball pit, like the Tweenies one, you could fill it with balls and stuff. Yeah. Well, Buzz Lightyear one, I'd never seen that before. Buzz Lightyear tent. Interesting. It was like a ship, was it? Had the wings on the side, yeah. Strange. Outdoor fun. Shoot your friends with a paintball gun. Is that like a rolling thing? Look at that, look at that. Just imagine like putting your sister in that and rolling it down the street. You'd get in big trouble. Yeah, look at that little obstacle course type thing. That would have been great. Would have loved that. A little obstacle course thing. Reminds me of 50-50. Remember that game show where they were always crawling over the inflatable obstacle courses? I used to love stuff like that. Bouncy Castle, of course. A staple of every birthday party, like Tweeny's Bouncy Castle, yeah. Oh, the house. I had that house. Look at that, the little Tykes house. Yeah, where you could go inside and like there was a little phone you could play on and stuff, look out the window and stuff to get you ready for getting your own house someday. Where they had a little yard and everything, you know. But that house, we had that sitting for years, and I remember it just became slowly demolished over the years. Like, you know, the gate would go missing, and then the sort of window curtain things, and then eventually the roof, and then it was just bits on the floor by the end after a few years. It was all made by Little Tykes. They always made these fun like things for you to play on. An 8-in-1 playground, yeah. You could probably customize it as well, I bet. Yeah, so that was the one for the rich kids, you know. couple of skateboards. Bet these were skateboards with horrible cheap plastic wheels, which I hated. You have to put proper wheels on a skateboard to use it properly. That police car, we had that, and that was another thing that crashed into many walls and got destroyed over the years. Oh yes, turn yourself into a mutant bug. Oh look, there's my VTech laptop. Yeah, look at that. It came with a mouse and everything. Couldn't go on the internet, of course. It just had sort of games on it, basic games. It was more like using one of those watches, you know, with the electronic games and stuff. Look at all this Pokemon stuff. I remember some of this, like the legs that had the tiny toys in them. They came with those counters, you know, like Tiddlywinks. That had the numbers of each Pokemon. Battling coins, sort of Pikachu, of course, he was the big thing. He was everywhere. Room greeters like that. You come into your room and it would say something, like the little toys and stuff. Thundershock Challenge, is that like a little pinball machine? Cards, of course, the cards. You know, £7. £7 for a pack of cards. You'd ask your dad for that and he'd always be like, you can buy a pack of cards for 50p, boy. Not paying for that. And of course you can't have Pokemon without Digimon, or at least then you couldn't anyways. But Digimon was the rival to Pokemon, which didn't last as long. Yeah, so you had plenty of toys. Sort of the same thing, really. The toys, action figures, cards, just kind of the same thing. Toy Story 2, yes, because I was obsessed with Toy Story, so I wanted all of this stuff, but, you know, I never had all of it. Like Singing Woody and Buzz Lightyear, that was the big thing was always Buzz Lightyear. I wonder if the Blue Belt one is here. But that's the good one, the one that has long wings, not those short ones. I used to hate those wings. They got it right a few years later when they started putting the long wings on. But no Blue Belt. Where's Blue Belt Buzz? That's what I wanted. Oh well, Disney's Dinosaur. This had toys apparently. Yeah, this was a movie at the time. I remember seeing lots of books and stuff, but not the toys. I mean, they're basically just dinosaur toys, you know, they don't have much personality, I suppose, but, you know. Action Man. It's amazing how Action Man was, like, so huge at the time, but now, like, no one would remember Action Man now if you were born in the last, maybe, 20 years, probably. I don't know, you might not know who Action Man is, probably not, but this was a huge thing at the time. You know, just those few years when he was big, like Dr. X, the villain, of course, with his clenching fist. That's when he had a big cyborg arm. Yeah, Police Action Man. Spaceman Action Man. That one, I think I had the space one with the buggy. Race Car Action Man. To go on a secret mission as an F1 driver. Yeah, he had his car and everything. He had a falcon that would fly onto his arm. Yeah, Action Man was cool. That sort of skateboard type thing. And Gangrene, Action Man's arch rival with toxic bulging guts. Squeeze my guts. How disturbing. Yeah, squeezy guts. Chicken Run again. More Chicken Run toys. And I do love Chicken Run, so, you know. There's the Rocky toy that talks, apparently. There's his... that wasn't in the film, that vehicle, I don't think. Rocky's Great Escape. That was not in the film. Yeah, but you sort of had... They give them weapons and stuff, you know? Like Ginger had some sort of egg whisk gun, and Rocky had this thing on his eye. How bizarre. But where's the pie machine? Like, that's like the easiest thing to make a toy. Where's the pie machine? Come on. Simpsons, of course. More Simpsons toys, you know. I think those were the ones with the hard heads but soft bodies. Strange sort of toy design. Oh, I don't believe it. Batman of the Future. They actually put this in the Argos catalogue. This one, I loved it. It's called Batman Beyond everywhere else, but over here it was called Batman of the Future. But I was obsessed with this. I mean, it's one of like the best Batman cartoons. You know, it's a spin-off of the animated series. But the toys were like, they didn't make any sense. They were like called Batlink, and it was like this internet-related thing that had nothing to do with the show. So they had like this virtual Joker who's like a computer virus, and this toy I had where like you'd plug him into stuff and he'd light up. But it had nothing to do with Batman Beyond. There was even a Robin as well, and there was no Robin in Batman Beyond. And I had the car too. But this had nothing to do with the show. So like, you know, where are all the villains from the show and things like that, you know, and Terry McGinnis and all that. But it was just they just completely didn't understand what the show was, you know, any of the characters, so they just got it all wrong. Transformers Beast Machines, where I had the gorilla thing, where I didn't know how to transform him though, so for years he was just in gorilla mode, not robot mode. I think the pieces got a bit stuck together, the plastic got a bit hard. Yeah, so I didn't watch that though, Transformers Beast Machines. But they made a few of them. It was the Transformer thing at the time, and popular with other Transformers fans. WCW, so when you couldn't afford WWE, you got WCW. I think this was on TNT, which was like a timeshare thing with Cartoon Network. So this was their wrestling federation at the time. Monday Nitro Arena. But I always loved those little wrestling rings and stuff. I always just wanted the rings, not the toys, you know. I just fight with Spider-Man or something. Tough talking. Nash, I'm gonna tear you apart. Goldberg, I'd just like to see you try. I wonder if that's what they'd actually say to each other. You could dress up with like fake pecs and a wrestling belt. Thunderbirds. Now, isn't this amazing? Thunderbirds. This is a show from the 1960s that became popular again in the early 2000s, purely based on them just repeating it on BBC Two. So isn't that crazy? Like, I can't think of anything else that's like that, where you'd have this old show that they haven't rebooted, they just started showing it again, and it became commercial again. So yeah, you had, Tracy Allen was just the best toy ever back then. You just wanted it because it had all the gadgets and stuff, and you could put the toys in it. But the thing is, I never had the toys, so you just had Tracy Allen on its own, you know, without any Thunderbirds to go with it. WWF wasn't called WWE back then, but yeah, you got the Attitude Ring and the cage. Always wanted the cage, never had it, you know, to lock everyone in. Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Yeah, this was the Power Rangers of the time, just before Lightspeed Rescue. But I had a couple toys of this, sort of the action figures, but none of the Megazords or anything. It was more about Lightspeed Rescue when I was growing up. You had to wait until about 11 o'clock at night to watch a bit of Lost Galaxy on Fox Kids back then. Cyber Connects. Like, look at this crazy stuff you could build. I have no idea how long it would take you to build all that. That would take you like a week. Look at the size of it. That's crazy. Lego football. I remember the advert for that. I wonder how that works, playing football with Lego. And those big boxes, of course, that just had, you know, buckets of Lego for you to play with and build your own stuff. Super Launcher. What is this, a blaster that fires cars? Includes 5 Hot Wheels cars, launches up to 16. That is a crazy thing, isn't it? Or Toy Story 2 Hot Wheels with like the buzz on the car. Yeah, that's great. That looks like a bit of fun. Extreme Skate Park. Yeah, this is when Hot Wheels started branching out into skateboarding as well. So these motorized skateboards, I guess, that would ride around. But that's the thing about Hot Wheels, though, is that mostly it was so big, like you wouldn't be allowed to get it. Like, no, there's no room in your bedroom for that. We're not getting that. Like things like that, the big track. Like, where would you put it? You know, children's games under £10. Like Jenga, I'd always be playing on that up Nan's house. And making towers fall. Frustration, remember that? That was a frustrating game. That was the thing where you like have to move closer, and you get the best thing about that was the dice, because you popped the thing and the dice would like bounce inside the globe. That was my favorite bit about it. Alibaba, there he is again. That was my version of Buckaroo back then. That's me as a child on my hoverboard. Look at that, the first ever virtual reality game, iRacer. See, hear, and feel the action. Yes, feel like you're inside a cheap Tiger game. Your eyes would probably be burning by the time you take that off. Now here's a typical kid's bedroom. Buy this inflatable picture, or we'll kill Kenny. That is a threat. That is a threat from the Argos catalogue. I don't believe that. But look at this kid, sporty stuff. He's got everything. He's got a Dreamcast. He's got the chair. He's got the little robot dog. Bunk beds with workstations and everything. For loads of Simpsons stuff, the way this is written, it suddenly turned into a kid's magazine. Here we go, the video games with the PlayStation, of course, the original PlayStation, which was only 80 quid. An amazing investment back then, really. I mean, you were, you know, like down there, see, you can buy a PlayStation and any 2 games, 100 quid, less than that, a penny less. And you were set, you were sorted, you know, like, you could play those games for like 2 months. Even the other games, like, you know, they're only like 20 quid, like Crash Bandicoot, you know, Tomb Raider, Tekken, you know, the good old days. Rugrats Search for Reptar, remember that? That was one of the best games ever, that was, as a kid. I should do a video on that sometime. Bugs Life, that is a terrifying game. All these cheap memory cards that probably break after you use them once. See what I was talking about with the transparent DualShock? There it is, that's the one, the blue one. I had a couple cousins who had that, and just be jealous of them. And my cousin had that too, like the little carrier case where you could keep all your games clasped in there. Here's the Dreamcast, a pretty cool console, but there just weren't that many games for it, really. You know, Sonic Adventure stuff, Sega Rally, I guess they were alright, but, you know, kind of only lasted a couple of years, the Dreamcast, and then it just went away. Even though it was a pretty cool console, like, it's quite aesthetically pleasing. Rumble Station TV game, I remember those with the cheap games, like, you'd be playing all those knockoff games on, like, plug and play, yeah. Game Boy Color, I had one of those. I had a turquoise one, wasn't that shade of blue, but had all the great games like Wario Land and Super Mario Brothers, Toy Story 2. Crazy Castle, that was the one I had. My dad found that on the road somewhere. There was a a game of Crazy Castle, a cartridge just lying in the road, and he just fetched it home for me, and it still worked. So I'd always play that on the Game Boy, and it would just give me a headache. Like, there were so many levels. Crazy Castle. Pokemon games, 25 quid. You know, red, blue, and yellow. I had blue, the first one, I think that was. And you could just play that for hours and hours. That's the only Pokemon game I ever had, actually, on the Game Boy, was just blue. Just play it all the time. And there's the Nintendo 64, which was £84, so more expensive than the PlayStation. That's kind of why the N64 didn't catch on as much. Even though it was the fancy Pikachu one, which came with Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Stadium. Remember those ads for those games on, like, the Pokemon movie tape? Yeah, I talked about those games a bit, because they're on the VHS of the first movie. And now the boring stuff. When you get to the Christmas trees, that's how you know it's the end of the catalogue, sadly. Important bits. Yeah, here's all the stuff we didn't tell you about how, you know, we're going to take all your money. Argos brings you home insurance, and then takes your home away when you can't pay it. Like, I love all this weird stuff you could buy from Argos, like holiday car hire, airport parking. You can pre-book your airport parking with Argos. I don't know. It was a novelty back then. I kind of like it. See, like, wedding list, BBC magazine subscription. You know, you get all this nifty stuff, you know. They just don't do this anymore, you know. Something's been lost. And that internet TV again, well, you might as well finish how we started. And I think that's about it. Yeah, so that is the end of this Argos catalogue. So thank you once again for tuning in and listening to me ramble for a bit about all these old memories. Because it's always a relaxing thing to do, I find, around Christmas time, just to look through the old Argos catalogue and reminisce, you know, about all that old stuff, yeah. So it's been lots of fun. And I guess I'll see you next Christmas for the next one. So thanks for watching, everyone, and take care. See you next time.